I'm Dr. Fiona Lovely, and this is the Not Your Mother's Menopause podcast. I'm taking the taboos of menopause and perimenopause and bringing light to the dark. No bullshit, no shame. It's time for us to gain a new paradigm in female health, out with the old and in with the new, and I'm bringing fresh perspectives from someone in the arena. I've been practicing women's health for nearly 20 years, and I'm spilling the tea on what it means to live at midlife, knowing that the best is yet to come. I'm sharing my Gen X approach to living through this transition. Sassy, a bit sweary, and always honest. Tactical tips and instantly usable information is my aim. I hope to make you laugh and that you learn something new that helps you embrace the change. Together, we bring power to the peri. Onward to the podcast. You're tuned into the Not Your Mother's Menopause podcast. I'm Dr. Fiona Lovely, and today I have a fun guest to share with you. A great conversation that I think is going to resonate with a great deal of you and also be really useful. This is for you if you're exhausted, you're inflamed, and you're lying awake at 3 a.m. with your heart pounding for no reason. You're snapping at the people you love, you're forgetting words mid-sentence, crying in the car on the way to work. You've been to your doctor, you've had the blood work, and you've been told everything looks normal, but nothing feels normal. And I want you to hear this clearly. You are not imagining it. You are not weak. You are not just stressed. What is happening in your body is real, it is measurable, and today we're going to talk about the system at the center of this all. One that most clinicians are not even thinking about when they see a perimenopausal woman sitting from them. Welcome to the Not Your Mother's Menopause podcast. And today's episode is one I've been genuinely looking forward to because it sits right at the intersection of the things I geek out about on the show and in my practice, of course. The science of the nervous system, the reality of what women are living through in perimenopause, and the tools that can actually move the needle. My guest today is Dr. Navaz Habib, widely known as the vagus nerve doc. He is a functional medicine practitioner, a fellow chiropractor, and the best-selling author of 2 books, Activate Your Vagus Nerve and Upgrade Your Vagus Nerve. He is also the founder of Health Upgraded and the host of the Health Upgrade podcast. Dr. Habib came to this work through his own healing journey, overcoming chronic health challenges using functional medicine, and has since built one of the most compelling bodies of work on the vagus nerve, science available anywhere. Now, you may have heard about the vagus nerve mentioned in your wellness circles, but I want to offer you a different entry point today, because what we're really talking about is this. Perimenopause is not just a hormone story. It's a nervous system story too. And the vagus nerve, the longest cranial nerve in the body, running from your brainstem all the way down through your heart, your lungs, and your gut, is at the center of that story. In this conversation, Dr. Habib and I explore what is actually happening neurologically when a woman hits perimenopause, already depleted. We talk about vagal tone, what it is, what low vagal tone looks like in the body, and what it feels like to live in a body with low vagal tone. We dig into one of the most important reframes I've encountered in a long time, that the vagus nerve is primarily sending signals up to the brain, not down, which means that no amount of positive thinking or willpower is going to calm a body that's screaming. The body calm has to come first. We talk about inflammation, the cholinergic anti-inflammatory pathway. I know, big words, just stick with me. It'll all make sense soon enough. The double impact of estrogen withdrawal plus low vagal tone at perimenopause, and why brain fog, joint pain, mood instability, and a dozen other symptoms that are being dismissed as just aging are actually connected through this one nerve. We talk about mental load as a physiologic problem, not a mindset problem, and what decades of never truly switching off costs the nervous system. We talk about tools, the real mechanisms behind breath work, movement, cold exposure, and what the data on your wearable is actually telling you. And then we go a little deeper, of course, because that's what I do. We talk about what it means for a woman to come home to herself through this transition, whether the nervous system can genuinely heal after years of dysregulation, and certainly what it means to be a perimenopausal woman with low vagal tone. This episode is for you if you're hanging by a thread and have been told you are fine. It's for you if you've tried everything and you're still not sleeping. It is literally for every woman who has sat in a doctor's office and left feeling more invisible than when she walked in. You're not fine, you're fighting. Today, we're going to give you some answers and some tools. I can't wait to hear what you think about this conversation with me and Dr. Navaz Habib talking about the nervous system. Menopause skin. Nobody's favorite part of the transition at midlife we call perimenopause and menopause. If you're noticing fine lines, wrinkles, or sagging skin, maybe more texture during your menopause, I have some really exciting news for you. Menopause can deplete your skin's collagen, speeding up the aging. But here's the news. Vitale Skincare has built its entire line on the power of GHK-Cu copper peptides, a proven ingredient that signals your skin's stem cells to produce new and healthy collagen. My personal favorite, Vitale's Restorative Skin Cell Serum. I love how it rejuvenates and restores my skin from within, revealing a firmer, more radiant glow. Want to experience this transformation for yourself? Head to vitaliskincare.com and use the code LOVELY at checkout for 20% off. That's vitaliskincare.com, VITALI skin, SKINCARE.com, code LOVELY. Because with Vitale, youthful, vibrant skin is just a step away at any age. You're listening to the Not Your Mother's Menopause podcast. I'm Dr. Fiona Lovely, and I have a fellow chiropractor with me here today. I'm so excited to welcome Dr. Navaz Habib to the show. You are the guy that's going to educate us about the vagus nerve. Welcome to the show.
I'm so excited to be here. I'm really excited to talk about my favorite topic and a fellow Canadian chiropractor in addition to that, which is the best.
It really is. And I've had other guests on the show that were chiropractors talking about their own story, but we've never had the chiropractic conversation around the nervous system, etc. And as you just said to me, as chiropractors, we look for the root cause. We get trained to do that right from the start. And so that mindset goes through, it percolates through all of the work we do, doesn't it?
That's exactly right. The whole idea of chiropractic was dig deeper, find out why it's happening in the first place. That's the philosophy of our practice. And lucky enough, the world has finally started to realize this and plug it into medical care. And that's what functional medicine is. Functional medicine to me is a chiropractic mindset of finding the root cause in a medical model. And that is finally the way that I think healthcare needs to be delivered. Very much N of one, not cookie cutter, very much working on an individual, trying to support and create change in the individual patient one at a time by providing them the care that they require and that they deserve.
Absolutely. And that whole specificity piece is so important. We've got to look at the individuals. I call it the terroir. You know, I like to drink wine. So what can I say? It's a wine, it's a wine vocabulary. But anyways, you know, I want to say we were introduced by a friend in common. Okay, that would be one Zora Benamou from Spain. And it was such a cute introduction email. I don't know if you remember this, but she sent this email. She's like, you guys are both in Canada. You can go for coffee. And then you responded right away and you were like, hey, I can get together at this time or whatever. And I'm like, wait a second, are you like in Toronto? It's so cute because Toronto's like the other side of the country from Calgary, where I am.
Canada is not a small country.
No, it's not at all. And we are not close at all. I don't know.
No,
If we were to, a flight would probably be about 4 hours or something like that between the two of
about
us.
3.5, 4 hours, yes.
Something like that. Have you ever been out to Calgary?
I was actually there about a year and a half ago Had a wonderful time. Took the girls to Banff.
Nice.
Did Drumheller.
Yes.
Did the whole. I have family in Calgary, so yeah,
Yes.
I've been out there. I
Perfect.
love it. It's wonderful. I would love to come back.
Perfect. Yes. Next time you come back, we can have a coffee. How about that?
Done.
Or a tea. Did you take your kids to the dinosaur museum?
It was
Oh,
my favorite place in the world, and
serious.
I had more fun than my kids did, honestly, in that dinosaur museum. My wife will attest to this. I was looking at the spines of dinosaurs to be like, why is that there? Look at how cool this is over here. Do you not see this? And my wife was like, what are you looking at? This is the most boring place in the world. And for me, I was like, this is
Oh,
wonderful.
so
I
happy.
loved it. If you're ever in Calgary, go to Drumheller. Phenomenal
Yes.
museum.
Yes, it's true. That would be the Tyrrell Paleontology Museum. And to heck with coffee. We'll just go, we'll drive down there with your family,
Done.
okay? And then you and I can look at the spines together. Years ago, Aaron and I, my husband and I, went to San Francisco, and we were in Marin County, and they had a little sort of interpretive center, and they had all these whale vertebrae out. Forget it. I was done. Like,
Yeah,
who cares about anything else? And you could touch them, right? So I had these pictures of me toggling the vertebrae. Just
I
all
love it.
these silly things. Again, spine nerds, I'm telling you, it doesn't matter where we are, it's going to get us every time. But you and I are going to have a conversation about the vagus nerve. So first of all, educate us. Before I ask about the vagus nerve, let me ask your story. How did you
Yeah.
find yourself a Canadian, a chiropractor, functional medicine practitioner, now a podcaster and clinician at some point, etc.? How'd you get here?
It's a really great question, and it's one of those semi-common journeys in that I was dealing with my own health issues and was seeking an answer that wasn't available from the external sources that I was speaking to. So, in my mid to late 20s, I weighed 250 pounds, high blood pressure, borderline diabetic, dealing with chronic health issues, chronic diagnoses that nobody in their 40s and 50s should be dealing with. And I was doing that in my 20s. And this was while I was in chiropractic college. It continued, it progressed a little bit afterwards. I got to a point, I had met my wife in my last year of chiropractic college, and we had decided, like, if we ever want to have kids, we kind of have to figure out our own health. We don't want our kids, they're going to get our genetics. We don't want our kids to have to deal with the same health struggles that we are dealing with. And it was that mindset shift. It was that moment. I remember it was on our first anniversary. We were sitting for dinner and we had this exact conversation. Remember exactly where we were. And everything really shifted for me in that moment where I said, okay, let's do something about this. And health became the goal. It wasn't about losing weight. It wasn't about, getting my blood pressure down and using the medications that were out there. Not to say that they're not valuable in some instances, for sure. There is value in medication, but maybe there's something that I'm doing that's causing this. And maybe there's a way for me to help shift this. Go down the road a little bit. I've tried a few different dietary habits. I've started researching what's going on in my own health. This is around 2013, 2014. And I was standing in a spot in a chiropractic clinic, my friend's clinic that I was working at, and a gentleman walked into the clinic. His wife had been in a car accident. Nothing too major, but she needed therapy. And this gentleman lived right upstairs. We were in the kind of bottom floor of a condominium building in Mississauga, Ontario here. And so he walked in, he was talking, and he said, well, he himself was a chiropractor, but he didn't practice that way anymore. And I said, oh, well, I'm a chiropractor. What else can a chiropractor do? And he said, I practice functional medicine. And that man was Sachin Patel.
Okay. Okay.
So it was the single most chance encounter that I met my mentor and good friend Sachin, who, as a chiropractor, but transitioned into a functional medicine practitioner, taught me and introduced me to this entire concept. I hadn't heard of it. And so when he mentioned this, he then went into the office to speak with my friend, get paper signed, get everything sorted for his wife's appointment. And I ran into my office and quickly Googled what is functional medicine.
Of course.
And that was the moment my life completely changed. That was the instant. And I ran out after Sachin into the frozen tundra of February in Toronto. and said, "What is this functional medicine thing? You need to teach me." And he gracefully and very graciously accepted and said, "I will teach you." And he met me uh, numerous weeks in a row at 7 a.m. at a coffee shop nearby his home slash my office.
Mhm.
And we got to know what this idea was. He got to teach me, and I became one of his first mentorship clients. And he introduced me to this entire world. I started doing functional medicine training. I started implementing these unique ideas into my life, biochemical, lifestyle, psychological practices that completely transitioned my life. I ended up losing 75 pounds, got rid of every single diagnosis that I was dealing with or was close to dealing with. And my life transitioned so much. I had so much energy waking up every morning. I was getting out of bed ready to go. I was excited. I was learning about self development. I was learning about business. I was growing. I eventually started working with Sachin at his clinic, which was great. And that started me working with clients in this capacity. I ended up selling my own clinic that I had, small clinic, and completely kind of transitioning out of hands-on chiropractic care into a consultative model of functional medicine. And that was my journey into understanding this. Now, I'll quickly just kind of share that it was in this world, working with Sachin, working with these patients, that I was trying to and clearly identifying that there was a pattern, that every single person that I was dealing with or that had come in to see me had a common path towards their disease, or a common thing in their chronic illness. Regardless of the diagnosis that they were given, they had some form of chronic uncontrolled inflammation occurring in their body.
Mm-hmm.
Inflammation that was not necessarily controlled. And that for me was the common path. And it was my own research and kind of digging into understanding what controls inflammation in the body that led me to the vagus nerve. And
Mm.
that's what brought me to become what I now call the vagus nerve doc.
There's no accidents in life. Have
No,
you, are you,
absolutely not.
you're old enough to figure that out, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
We think there's accidents. Oh no.
No,
Oh
no.
no. The Great Kazoo has a sense of humor. So just when you think you've got it figured out, something like Sachin Patel coming along like he did changed things.
Yeah.
So vagus nerve and inflammation. Oh, let's unpack that a little bit, please.
Absolutely. So the vagus nerve is our 10th cranial nerve. We have 12 pairs of cranial nerves. They come out of the brainstem, and 11 of those 12 remain in the head and neck cavity. So they go to the eyes, they go to the ears, they go to the face, facial muscles, skin, etc. Very important that they're functioning very well. But this 10th pair, the vagus nerve, comes out from the brainstem, and we're talking macroanatomically, and I'm going to create a bit of a shift in our thinking in a bit. But this nerve comes out of the brainstem, has a couple of branches to the skin of the ear, a branch to the muscles of the throat and the vocal cords. Those are the pharyngeal and laryngeal branches, and then it leaves the head cavity. And it's the only one of these 12 pairs of nerves to leave the head cavity, and it comes out and it courses in the neck alongside our carotid artery and jugular vein. So if you go and you find your pulse in your neck, you're actually within a couple millimeters of your vagus nerve. It doesn't go alongside the spinal cord and the spinal tract. It doesn't go alongside any other nerves. It's literally beside an artery and a vein, the artery and vein that bring blood flow to your brain. And we have the nerve sitting there, the vagus nerve. It's kind of unique. Why would it do something like that? Why is this so specific and so unique to this particular nerve? Well, continues to course down into the thorax, which is the chest area, and it enters this area and it literally innervates every single organ in this area. It goes to the heart, goes to the lungs, even goes to the blood vessels like the aorta, the trachea, the esophagus, all have vagus nerve inputs and areas coursing together. And the left and right, we call it the vagus nerve. There's two, one on the right, one on the left, and they actually blend together in the thorax. and they course together alongside the esophagus going down into the abdomen. So they go through the diaphragm into our belly area. And then they innervate again, virtually every single organ in the abdomen, in the belly. So it goes to the stomach, goes to the small intestine, goes to majority of the large intestine, goes to the liver, goes to the kidneys. There's an indirect connection to the spleen. That's the only indirect one, and we'll talk about that because that's the inflammatory component that we know about. And it goes to the gallbladder and it goes to the, pancreas, you name it. Every organ has this direct connection to this nerve. So from a macroanatomical level, anatomists were looking at this and they were like, well, it's vague. We don't know. It goes everywhere. It can't control everything, right? This is unique. So because it's so vague, let's call it the vagus nerve. Obviously, we're extrapolating thought processes at this point, but it makes sense. This nerve is so incredibly unique that when we started digging into the microanatomical level or digging into what's actually happening and who it's connecting to and what it's communicating with, what information is being sent here, we then realized just how important this is. 80% of the signals on the vagus nerve are coming up from those organs to the brain. I'll say that again because we think physically in terms of brain to body as being the
Yep.
connection.
Yep.
80% of the
Yep.
signals on this nerve are coming up.
That's
That's
huge.
huge,
Yeah.
right? To think that we need to get information up. Well, what could be speaking to the brain? What's happening? We're getting status updates from certain cell types in each of these organs in the brain so that the brain can make a good consolidated decision as to what to do about it. So,
Okay.
what we're actually doing is we're listening to what our immune cells are saying in each of these organs. We have immune cells present in every single organ of the body. And the ones that I want to specifically focus on are called tissue resident macrophages. These cells, they have different names in all the different organs. They're Kupffer cells in the liver, the Langerhans cells in the skin, alveolar macrophages in the lungs, name them everywhere. In the brain, they're the microglial cells. These cells are all tissue resident macrophages. Don't need to get into the specifics of this, but these are the innate immune cell of the body. And these cells actually regulate the growth and function of every single one of those organs. And they make sure that if there is a threat to the function or the survival of that organ, that they're going to react and knock out that threat. But they're also sending signals of if things are good, let's make sure that things are working well. So they maintain and regulate function in each of these organs. In order for the brain to know what's happening, those cells need to be able to communicate to the brain. And they do so through the vagus nerve. So 80% of these signals are coming up as status updates as to what's happening in the heart, in the lungs, in the kidneys, in the spleen, etc., to the brain. That's the function, the primary function of the vagus nerve. When we then take this information in our brain and consolidate and figure out what to do, 15% of the information on the vagus nerve is what we know as parasympathetic efferent brain to body connections, telling those same immune cells, let's decrease your hyperactivity. Let's put the brakes on how much inflammation you are using. So these immune cells use inflammation as their signaling mechanism to bring more immune cells to knock out the threats. And when they have knocked out the threat, we shouldn't have these cells working overtime. So think of these cells almost like firefighters at when there's a threat to kind of deal with. If there's a fire, you want the firefighters there to put the fire out. But then you want to be able to tell these firefighters, fire's out. Now you don't need to do that firefighter job. I need you to now transition into being the woodworkers and the carpenters and the plumbers and the cleaning staff of this place. And you're going to regulate the function. And it's the vagus nerve signals that come from the brain down to the body that tell these firefighter cells to shift into becoming these regulatory housekeeping maintenance staff for each of those organs. What we're doing is we're talking about the transition of, I'm sure for the clinicians out there, an M1 macrophage into an M2 macrophage. And I know I went deep into the science,
Yeah, you
but
did,
I
but it
want
was
to
so
make
good.
sure that we understand this. So
That was riveting. Okay. So 15% of the nerve function is simply signals from the brain to the organs to say,
Yeah.
to the viscera to say, hey, this is what you need to be doing, putting out fires or not putting out fires. And I personally love this particular conversation about the fact that the body is commanding the brain. That's gotten missed so much, especially when we talk from a psychology or psychiatry point of view, if you will. But it challenges that brain first mentality. So I'm trying to decide what I want to ask you next because there's so much good stuff in there. Okay, so 85% of it's afferent, meaning body communicating to the brain.
I stick with 80 because there's 5% of it that goes, 1% is sensory to the skin of the ear, and
Okay.
4% is the motor to the pharyngeal and laryngeal branches. So it's 80% afferent, 80% up,
Yeah.
15% down, 1% sensory at the ear, and 4% motor.
Okay. So take every, by the way, somebody needs to update the chiropractic education people on that one because they're still teaching 85%, I think. Anyways, um, somebody's got to have decided that was a board question that you and I will remember until the day we die, the answers to the board questions. Anyways, why does this matter for the woman in perimenopause who's overwhelmed? Hearing us talk of this nerdy speak about the brain, about the nerves that come off, the cranial nerves that come off, specifically the vague wandering nerve of the vagus nerve. Why does it matter?
It matters heavily because if you are unable to regulate your inflammatory processes, if you're unable to regulate your immune system effectively, as hormones go into their roller coaster ride of perimenopause and then completely shift into this dormant phase of postmenopause, the ability for those immune cells to regulate effectively decreases significantly. And what that means is function in those cells becomes hyperinflammatory. And as we increase inflammation, we decrease the ability for each of those organs to function. So this is where the symptoms come up, is because these immune cells are in a hypervigilant, inflammatory, they're firefighters, everything is scary, and they're going to knock out every potential threat as something that they need to be worried about. If you don't have a well functioning vagus nerve, you're going to go down that inflammatory tract far more readily. This is why so many women are diagnosed within a couple of years of perimenopause and menopause with autoimmune conditions, with
Mhm.
inflammatory bowel diseases, with
Mhm.
brain conditions and neurodegeneration and things like that because we're not regulating the immune cells effectively. Immune regulation is the key to this whole pathway of creating optimal function. If you can regulate the immune cells, you can create optimal function.
Regulation equals optimal function. I'm literally taking notes as you're talking. I feel like I'm in school again. Okay. But for the woman listening, she hears you talk about immune cells and she's like, oh, that's only if I'm getting sick, right?
No, no. If you
Please
don't
share.
have well functioning immune cells on the regular, here's let's go to one organ in particular. Let's start in the gut because this is where the vast majority of things tend to occur and actually the most upward information is going to occur there. So we have somewhere between 60 and 80% of our immune cells by volume in the lining of the gut. And these cells are there to maintain the function of the intestinal tract and the gut overall. Now, the gut begins in the mouth and goes all the way down to the other end. And we have to make sure that each of the areas in this tract, in this entire tubing that goes through us, is functioning well. We chew our food in the mouth, right? We need to produce salivary amylase to help break down these foods, and saliva helps to lubricate and break down these foods chemically as they go through the esophagus. The esophagus gives us time for that to occur really effectively. It goes down into the stomach. The stomach is where we have acid there to help break down these foods into their smallest components. Then we go from the stomach into the small intestine. We've got three different areas there. Each of those areas has a slightly different function, but in the small intestine, the intention is to break the food down and to absorb nutrients. Particularly, this is where we get a lot of our fat soluble micronutrients and our macros in the small intestine. The lining of the small intestine in particular is so narrow. It is one cell thick. One cell. That's a crazy thing to think of. That it's such a finite, like small. It's smaller than thinner than a piece of paper. Is literally the lining of the gut. Can you imagine if there's some threat that enters into the gut, what might happen to that piece of paper or thinner than a piece of paper lining? It'll break down, right? It'll cause little issues to occur. What if there's a bacteria that's coming in? What if there's a food that you might be reacting to? What if there's some sort of parasite or something that gets into your microbiome? Well, guess what? That area, that lining, that tube contains somewhere between 40 and 60 trillion bacteria in the lining of the small and large intestine alone. That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
We have this thin barrier protecting us from this massive population of bacteria, parasites, viruses, yeast, and worms that we should ideally live synergistically with. But we've
They are
had,
guarded. They
yeah,
are guarded. Yes, sorry, go
yeah.
on.
So our immune system is actually speaking to that entire population through this very thin lining. There's communication that is happening. Those bacteria, the good guys, give us a lot of really important things. They provide us with short chain fatty acids, provide us with precursors to the neurotransmitters. They help to break down the food in a much better way so that we can absorb it and have those nutrients getting in bioavailably. But the immune system is also, when there's a threat in the gut, they need to ramp up the barrier. They need to make sure that that barrier remains thick, remains functional, remains capable of keeping the bad out and only letting the good in. When the immune system is dysregulated, meaning that there is a trigger for inflammation, but we don't have regulation from the nervous system to do so, we start putting out more fires and we start actually hurting our own body. The immune cells will start to mistake areas that are not actually threatening as threatening. And it'll start to break down the gut lining. And this is what we call leaky gut, right? So we can have a leaky gut happening from the microbiome side where we lack mucus barrier, the bacterial population is dysbiotic, and it starts to break things down. But if the immune system from underneath is hyperactive, it's going to break things down as well, even further. It's not going to help to build back. We need to have both regulated. So the vagus nerve is the nerve that senses what's going on, sends that up to the brain. The brain ideally gets good information from a well-functioning vagus nerve. If the vagus nerve is not functioning well, you're not going to get information passed effectively. The brain makes a decision. When the vagus nerve is working well, it'll make a good decision. When the vagus nerve is not working well, you're not given good information. So that just like the CEO of a company can't make a good informed decision if they don't have good information, we then send that signal down to the immune cells to say, yeah, this is a threat, you should react, or no, this is not a threat, let's re-regulate, go back to that M2 regulatory mode, etc. So without that good information, we're going to actually say sometimes, go be inflammatory, go react. This may be actually be a threat to us. And so we're going to break it down. And this is where the disease states start to occur.
Interesting. Okay. Okay. That's helpful. So, how do I know if my vagus nerve is working well?
It's a really great question. And so for most people, we're actually quite lucky in the time that we live. The best way to do so is with wearable technology.
Okay.
Wearable devices provide us with a few different outputs, but there's one in particular that screams not just vagus nerve, but autonomic nervous system. So now let's take a quick step back. The vagus nerve, as we know and as we've been taught through clinic and through our training, is that it's the parasympathetic nervous system, or it sends the signals of the parasympathetics. There's another branch to this. The parasympathetics are the rest, digest, and I've added one more word, recover mode. And that's what it's going to send out through the vagus nerve. But the other side of this is the fight or flight side, and that's the sympathetic nervous system. Together, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic are called the autonomic nervous system. These are all the processes that are happening without our conscious thought. So, how do we identify whether this is working well or not? The outcome that we're looking for is heart rate variability on our wearable devices. We both have our Aura rings here. I love it.
Yes.
I've had mine for 7 years. I like to test how long people have had theirs.
Yes. I've been wearing, let's see, this is actually Ultra Human. I switched to Ultra
Oh,
Human
okay.
about 3 years ago. The metrics
Nice.
are different, and that's a
And
conversation we have another time.
totally, we can definitely get into that.
But my Aura was about 6 years before that.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. So you're
Yeah.
ahead of me. I love it.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So for me, heart rate variability is the marker that we're going to use as the proxy for whether our vagus nerve is working well or not. So the easiest way to understand this is that these two systems actually work synergistically with one another, but they're separate systems entirely. Okay. They're not like a dimmer switch on one system that lights are going on and off. Rather, they are like the accelerator and the brakes in your car. So the sympathetic nervous system is like the accelerator. And the accelerator is necessary for the car to go. You need to be able to go into a sympathetic state at certain times to be able to make the car move, right? So for the body to react to potential threat, you need to push the accelerator, no question. But what if you don't have a well functioning brake? What happens to your car when you are driving down the road and there's a red light that is popping up, or a stop sign that comes up, or a kid runs across the road? What could happen? Well, you would hope that you have a braking system that helps to slow you down and not push you into that sympathetic state so that you don't have to be a threat to the people around you. Okay, so for us to work with in the system of the world, we need to have these two systems working well together. The brakes are the vagus nerve and the parasympathetic nervous system. So a well-functioning braking system helps to slow everything down, helps to create regulation on our ability to move forward and pull us back when it's time to pull back. And so these two systems need to work synergistically with one another. What can happen is, and living in the world that we live in right now, the levels of stress that we are under is almost like putting bricks onto the accelerator so that consciously we aren't pushing the accelerator, but the car's still going. And what happens if you push the accelerator and the brake at the same time? Well, the brakes are going to start to wear out. The brake pads are going to wear down. The brake fluid's going to go low. You might pop your brake line, sadly. And the brake system is going to not be able to handle the engine continuing to run and the wheels continuing to turn at the rate that they are. So slowly and surely, that system is going to break down. The braking system. The braking system is the vagus nerve. In our body, that's kind of the best analogy that I can say is what causes vagus nerve to become dysfunctional. So stress is the key, but it's not just the stress of day-to-day life. What if you experienced trauma in your past?
Yeah.
What
Yeah.
if you have a biochemical stressor around you? What if you are living in an unsafe physical environment? What if you're metabolically unhealthy? These are all stressors that are putting bricks on the accelerator without our conscious thought. They're just happening, right? And we don't
Mm.
realize, but they're filling our stress bucket. They're putting more and more strain on our vagus nerve's ability to regulate our accelerator, and pull us back. So the vagus nerve has become broken down. And that's why when we look at our HRV numbers, heart rate
Mhm.
variability, what we should ideally see is a nice high number. Now, everybody's going to be different, and there's no good number. I get asked this question all the time. If anybody has a wearable, what's a good HRV? The answer is better than yesterday, period.
Mm.
Okay. Each person on their own device, on their own, like, you could have two different devices, one on your wrist, one on your finger. I have a friend who's got a Whoop band, an Apple Watch, and an Aura ring, and I don't know how he does it, but he figures it out. And
Do
he's
they
he's a
match? Is my question is, do they match?
no, not at all. And he's a functional cardiologist in San Diego. Like,
Ah,
brilliant guy,
yes.
great guy. But he's walking around with three wearables. I don't know how he does it. Give me a ring, and I don't want anything buzzing on my arm.
Is
I'm good
that
with
Dr.
that.
Wolfson?
No,
Oh,
I
okay.
know exactly who you're talking about. No, it's not
Yeah.
Dr. Wolfson.
Anyways, go on.
It's
Who's married to
actually
a chiropractor, by the way?
yes,
Dr.
yes,
Wolfson is. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. Heather, she's great.
Yes. Yes.
No, it's Dr. Sanjay Bodraj, friend of mine.
Ah, okay. Don't know him.
Yeah, really
Anyways,
great
go
guy.
on, please. So he's got his three wearables on.
The numbers don't match up, and so
Interesting.
wearable devices are not diagnostic level. We're not
Sure.
there yet, and that's
Yeah.
okay. but they're great for trend analysis. And so heart rate is different than heart rate variability. I just want to do a quick thing here. Heart rate is telling us the number of beats in a 60-second span in 1 minute. And that number is telling us whether we're pushing the accelerator or pushing the brakes based on where the number is. But it's not as accurate as looking at the number of milliseconds between each of those heartbeats averaged over a period of time. Because with that, we're looking at heart rate variability,
Mm-hmm.
HRV. How variable is this? We often would think, and it would logically sound like we would want our heartbeat to be rhythmic, that we would want it to beat like a metronome. And the answer is that's absolutely incorrect. The more your heart is beating like a metronome, the more your body is in sympathetic state.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
Yeah. I like that.
the
Yeah.
less your heart is beating like a metronome, the more it's telling us that the accelerator and the brakes are working together. And
Yeah.
so we're speeding up and then we're slowing down. And then we're speeding up and we're slowing down. And both of these systems are working synergistically with one another. And that's how we need to interpret what HRV is. And then to decide, okay, my HRV was 18 today, tomorrow 24. That means I'm moving in the right direction. Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm recovering and I'm moving in the direction of better and better and better. And if you can get to the 60s and 70s, wonderful. And if you can get to 100, I praise you and you're an athlete and that's wonderful. Right?
Yeah. I've never
This
seen
is
it that high.
the
Anyways.
highest I've ever had on myself was around 90, which was amazing. And that was, I was younger and didn't have kids and was sleeping wonderfully at that
Yeah.
time.
Sleep is no joke on that HRV business.
Well, sleep is what when the vagus nerve is active. When you sleep is when your vagus nerve does its work.
Okay.
This is
Same
why I
on.
added the recovery piece, right? So
Yes.
rest, digest, and recover. When you sleep effectively, and this is probably the most practical advice that we can give to anybody on this. When you sleep effectively, you're giving the vagus nerve an opportunity to send its signals throughout the body without new stressors popping in. Sleep is the least stressful time of your day. But if you mess with it, it becomes a time that isn't efficiently used. And so we wake up the next day and our energy is down and we are dragging our feet and our HRV was really low because we might have had an extra glass of wine or something the night
Mm-hmm.
before and it knocked
Mm-hmm.
us down. This is telling us that our vagus nerve is not turning on as well. So if we have really low HRV the next morning, you didn't actually recover as well as you wanted to. You didn't use the sleep effectively. Sleep should be like boundaried completely and should be the most sacred time for us. That is key. So for anybody who's going through whatever symptoms, chronic illness, perimenopause, whatever it is, like protect your sleep. Do everything you possibly can to sleep in cold, dark, comfortable
Mm-hmm.
space. Don't eat too close to bedtime. Don't drink too much water close to bedtime. Don't use your electronics while you're laying in bed
Yeah.
scrolling, doom scrolling. That's actually causing you to decrease your functionality of your sleep. The efficiency, the effectiveness of your sleep is going down, and the your vagus nerve can't do its work then. So this is probably of the if there's two pieces of advice that I'm going to provide, that's the big one about sleep. Protect your sleep, period.
Oh, I love that. Protect your sleep. Okay. I know a lot of women can relate to the story I'm about to share, but because I look at my HRV and I've been tracking it for years, I noticed that probably the worst habit I had that affected my HRV was having alcohol with dinner.
Yeah,
So at the age of 52, I think I had one drink last summer, and that's when I happened to be in Paris, and I figured it was part of the culture, and I did it early enough in the day that it wasn't quite day drinking, but it kind of was. And then it didn't really bother my HRV. But honestly, I've otherwise just stopped alcohol. It's not worth it.
yeah,
And because it causes such a terrible effect on my sleep, which then affects everything else in my life. So
totally.
but I think we have to also acknowledge that there are a lot of women using um, a glass of wine with dinner or after dinner, scrolling on your phone for an hour before you fall asleep, looking at TikTok, looking at Instagram, watching you and I on Facebook and Instagram.
If you're watching this or listening to this at 11 p.m., turn it off. Turn it off
Naughty.
right now. Start again tomorrow. Press pause.
I think that was Dad, Dr. Habib, that just stepped in the room there.
It was. As you can tell, I have two
I
daughters, and this is something that I have to do. I'm sure at
sure,
times.
sure, I felt it. I felt it. It's okay. We need to learn these things, and sometimes it's just that we don't make the connection, especially if you feel like it's giving you stress relief. Um, we just don't make the connection that it could actually be affecting things on a
Yeah.
far deeper level.
I will
Okay.
say, just on
Yes.
that point,
Yes.
it's comforting, but it's not safe. It's not good for you to do this. It's not actually helping you calm down to be there scrolling and looking at things.
Okay, friend. I know
You're
you and I are
entering a
doing an interview.
comfort zone. You're not entering a safe zone.
Okay. You and I are doing an interview, so this is supposed to be like a flow, but I'm literally having to stop. What? Please don't say another genius Yoda thing. Just tell me that again. I need to have it tattooed inside my eyelids.
I love it.
Scrolling is comfort, but
Yeah.
not safe.
Yeah. There's a
Dude.
big difference between comfort and safety. And
Oh,
safety, this is
yes.
huge now.
Yep.
Safety is the feeling that turns on the vagus nerve. If you don't feel safe, your vagus nerve can't turn on. This is polyvagal theory work. This is
Yep.
Dr. Stephen Porges' work.
Yes. Wonderful stuff.
And safety doesn't just come from a psychological standpoint. Safety comes from a physical standpoint.
Which is
Safety
that
comes from a
information
biochemical standpoint.
tra traveling from the body to the brain through the vagus nerve. Okay.
Exactly.
If your energy levels feel low and you're experiencing digestive issues like gas and bloating, even when eating healthy, nutritious foods, imagine how you might feel during the indulgence of the holiday season. Adding a high quality enzyme supplement to your routine could make a big difference. I personally recommend Masszymes by Bioptimizers. It's a best in class supplement loaded with full spectrum enzymes for digesting proteins, starches, sugars, fibers, and fats. After you start taking Masszymes, you may notice that you no longer feel bloated after meals and that your belly feels flatter. These powerful enzymes boost your energy by increasing metabolism of your food for fuel. And by improving digestion, your body has more resources to allocate for mental and cognitive function. I can definitely vouch for these enzymes. I take them myself, and they are powerful. For the entire month of November, Bioptimizers, the makers of Masszymes, are having a Black Friday sale, their best sale of the year. All month long, you'll get discounts with my unique code, plus access to up to $100 in free gifts with purchase. You can only get this exclusive deal through my link, special for the audience of the Not Your Mother's Menopause podcast. You won't find this on Amazon or even on the company website. Go to bioptimizers.com/lovely and use code LOVELY to get your discount and free gifts today. All Bioptimizer supplements are best in class. If you don't agree, you can get a full refund for up to 1 year after your purchase, no questions asked. Again, the link to go to right now for this exclusive deal is bioptimizers.com/lovely using the code LOVELY. Links in the show notes. Okay, we need to talk about that a little more, please, because I think this is a real concern for women at perimenopause. We have accumulated microtraumas by the time we get into the perimenopausal era, which starts potentially 35 to 45 in that zone. We've accumulated microtraumas. That's just the nature of the culture that we live in here, our communities, and the society we live in. And we also live in a time where we have this digital environment that allows
Mhm.
us to dopamine, which is one of
Yeah.
my favorite
I
terms,
love
right?
that. Oh
Isn't
my
that so good?
God.
You
Dopamine.
go right
Oh,
ahead.
I'm going to use that. I
Help
love it.
yourself. Help yourself. Just like I'm about to have t-shirts made that said scrolling is comfortable but not safe.
I love it. I love
I'm
it.
so we have this digital environment again, and it's like I refer to it as the casinos in our pocket. So I'm still blown away that I see people driving on the major highway looking at their phone. I can't even believe that we are there. And that helps me understand, because I'm a nervous system doc, I can understand why that happens,
Yeah.
because we are soothing away our pain.
Cell phones are new pacifiers. Our smartphones are pacifiers for us.
Yeah. Jesus. At some point, our mothers took those away from us. But there's nobody taking the phones away. And it makes me concerned for development for our brains, just the amount. You
Crazy.
too, I'm sure.
Have you seen this new book, Jonathan Haidt, the Anxious Generation?
No, Shannon.
Highly, highly recommend.
Okay, okay. More
Yeah.
notes. Hold on. We are right. We're doing an interview, aren't we? Well, listen, just so my community knows, as you're listening to Navaz and I have a conversation, it's like as if we were sitting in person having a
Oh, totally,
conversation.
totally.
This is real life, baby. This is it. Okay, the anxious generation, you said, yeah?
Yeah, by Jonathan Haidt. Yeah. Really, really great book. And he talks about how smartphones and teenage generation right now and the anxiety that they're feeling, the data is unreal. I was talking to a friend of mine just yesterday, and he was saying that 80% of the teenagers and kids that he sees, and he's worked with uh, huge groups. It's kind of in the functional neuroplasticity kind of realm that he works in. And 80%, 80 to 83% of the respondents respond with having either a diagnosis of or feelings of anxiousness much of the time, which is crazy to think.
Uh, it's hard to even put words to it,
Yeah.
how, especially when you know a little bit about how the nervous system works and then you start to see this. So I was just telling my husband this story the other day, but I had popped into a store close to home, and a very busy store. I don't know if you've been anywhere near a Sephora lately. You've got teenage girls.
I avoid. They're not teenagers yet. I
Not
avoid
teenage,
as
yeah,
much as I
okay.
can.
Just wait. I'm telling you, Friday night in my local Sephora, it's like a dance club in there, and it's all preteens and teenagers with their parents.
Oh
And they
God.
bring the parents because parents are paying for this.
Oh, you're talking about my future. I'm so afraid.
Yes, yes. Start saving now, friend, is all I'm saying. Okay, anyway, so I went into the Sephora to return something. I was trying to back out of my parking spot, and there was a young woman who was walking behind the cars that were parked in the Sephora. Now, the Sephora is the right next to the registry, so it's a very busy parking lot. I'm trying to back out, but I'm looking to see, is there anyone behind me? And I see this young woman. She has a hood over her head, a vape in one hand, and a cell phone in the other. And she stops right behind my car, which I have the reverse lights on at this point. My foot's on the brake, to look at something on her phone and to take a toke. And I was like that is it used to be we talked about addicts in a certain way. There was a certain, the joke, you open up the dictionary and that's what an addict would look like. That's what an addict looks like. And that makes me very sad because we're
Yeah.
addicted to the dopamine hits we're getting from looking at TikTok, looking at the news, having the toke on the vape, or I don't know. I'm not even using the right terminology. That's how square I am. But
It's a good thing to be square about this topic, I
yeah,
think.
well, I think so. Anyways, but I do have deep concerns because of these kinds of things.
No doubt. No doubt. Um, Another book recommendation on that for anybody who's interested in kind of breaking that cycle. It's by Nir Ayal called Indistractable. And that book was huge. So he actually was the gentleman who wrote a book called Hooked, and all of the app companies took
Yep.
that information and built apps that hook you to their work. So,
Bro,
the
stop.
vertical scroll apps. And then he realized what he had done. And he said, "Holy crap, I need to change this." And he wrote a book called Indistractable.
Oh my
And so
God.
just a huge turnaround in terms of what he was
What's the name
preaching.
of that author again?
Nir Ayal. First name is Nir. Last
Yep.
name is Eyal.
Eyal. Well, Near, thank you very much. I'll tell you the book I've read on this subject is it's a little bit older. It's called Stolen Focus by Johan Hari.
Oh, no, I haven't heard that one.
Excellent. You got to
Interesting.
read that one. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, for sure. I'm going to guess it was about 2014 or 2015. So the ones you've given me will be a little more contemporary, but this one talks more about, talking to the researchers involved
Yes.
in how we get addicted and what the addictive loops are. And I had heard about what did you call it? The vertical scrolling apps taking, this data and It's like when I heard about food science for the first time, and the way it was described to me when I was doing my functional medicine training was something along the lines of, and keep in mind this was 25 years ago. Um, you've got a bag of oranges and a bag of Oreos. If you have an orange, you have one orange and you're done. But when you open that bag of Oreos, you're not stopping. It takes willpower of some kind to stop.
It's designed that way, right? It's so
Yes.
scary to think that that's how it's designed. It's designed to provide you with the taste as a hook, but no nutrient density so that you don't feel full and you keep going. And that's what all of food science, sadly, is based on. So how can we sell you more of this crap?
Wow. Okay, so basically you're the dad doctor that we all need right now.
I love it. I'll take it on. I will take
Okay.
it.
Well, you're in training for teenagers going to Sephora. I'm just saying you're going to need some battle training for that as well, especially during the Sephora sale. Anyways, okay, so let's come back to the vagus nerve now. We probably have figured out that the vagus nerve isn't working so well. We're talking about inflammation because the vagus nerve isn't working so well. And then you add in the fact that at perimenopause, our estrogen starts to swing like crazy. This is women I'm talking about now. And then at some point, it just starts to decline. And in the background of those wild swings, testosterone and progesterone are slowly declining. So we're going to talk about estrogen, which has a potent anti inflammatory effect.
Absolutely.
So we're now talking about our body not being able to communicate with our brain to say telling our brain essentially what's happening in the terroir so that we can do that whole homeostasis thing, which turns out is pretty important for health. So now we've got the double hit of vagus nerve not working so well, and we're losing the inflammation, anti-inflammatory effects of estrogen. How do we even start to sort this out, please?
The key thing is rebuilding and supporting your vagus nerve in this situation
Okay.
because we have the anti-inflammatory effects of the estradiol, which is ideal, but that as it declines, you're not going to get that back. So, could there be another system that helps to regulate the inflammation? Well, this is where we've identified that exact pathway is the vagus nerve. And that's what brought me to the vagus nerve in the first place. The vagus nerve regulates an entire pathway called the cholinergic anti inflammatory pathway.
Oh, that was delightfully nerdy. Thank you.
And I'll break it down real quickly.
Please.
Cholinergic goes down to the neurotransmitter that the vagus nerve utilizes called acetylcholine. Okay, it's the only neurotransmitter that it uses, and acetylcholine is the molecule that signals to those immune cells to damp down. It's the brakes, right? It's the signaling molecule of the brakes. So now, if we decrease the amount of estradiol that's available, having its anti inflammatory effects, we need to ramp up other systems. We need to have this other system there available to support that. And that's where this acetylcholine and vagus nerve function work. So think of the vagus nerve again like that brake line. If the brake line is not super strong, then you're not going to be able to compress and slow the rotors of the car down. So slow the car down. We need to increase tonality in the vagus nerve. Vagal tone is what we're talking about. Vagal tone is the strength or the signaling strength or the signaling capacity of the vagus nerve. And just like every other nerve in the body, it's a nerve. And it's not unique in that function. It's unique in where it goes and what it's signaling to and from, but it's not unique in how it works. And so, how do you train nerves? There's no way to train nerves, is there? When you exercise, when you build muscle, you're not training the muscle. You're training the nerves to those muscles.
To fire the
You're
muscle, yeah.
building tonality of nerves. Exercise is how you do that, right? You go walking, you do hours and hours of walking, you're going to know how to walk really, really effectively. You're going to train that capacity up. You want to build huge biceps? Do a million bicep curls over time. Don't do it in one day. But do that, you're actually building up bicipital nerve. You're not building up the biceps. The biceps growth is secondary. Having enough nutrients and doing that, having that what they call muscle memory is actually nerve tonality. It's the nerves that you're training when you exercise. So, is there a way to exercise and build tone in the vagus nerve? The answer is you're doing it already about 16 to 24,000 times per day. It's your breath. The breath is how you exercise and turn on the vagus nerve. So you're already doing this. So, we're all breathing. Why is this such a unique thing? We all know how to breathe. I guarantee you, 80-90% of these people that are listening today, you don't know how you're breathing. You don't actually know how to breathe. You're not breathing well. Breath needs to have three specific components to it in order to turn the vagus nerve on. And how you breathe is actually going to tell you whether you're pushing the accelerator or you're pushing the brakes. So your breathing mechanisms, your breathing capacity, and these three characteristics I'm going to quickly dig into are what you need to do to train the vagus nerve to work better. Number one, we need to breathe through our nose. The nose is the breathing tube. The mouth is the eating tube. We don't have teeth in our nose. We don't have nose hairs in our mouth. Nose hairs are the filter. Air comes
Yeah.
in through the nose. It goes into the sinuses and we humidify and warm that air. And then that air is more bioavailable for oxygen and carbon dioxide gas transfer in the lungs when it goes through the nose than when it goes through the mouth. So, number one, breathe through your nose, nasal breathing. Number two, are you using the right muscles to breathe? Or should I say, right muscle to breathe? We have
Yes.
one prime driver of the breath. Most of us aren't using it effectively, at least. It's the diaphragm. The diaphragm is the muscle that is located at the bottom of the thorax. It's the bottom of the chest, and it separates the chest from the belly. And it is a huge muscle, and it literally is there in kind of a double dome shape at the bottom of the lungs. And when we breathe properly, those muscles, the diaphragm, actually go downwards. As they contract, those domes kind of shrink downwards. And what they're doing is they're creating a vacuum in the chest above, but they interface, they also connect to or are closely associated to the organs below. We tend to think of the diaphragm as simply being the driver of the breath. But if you're not using that, what else could you be using? I'm going to ask you a question, and listeners, please tell me if this is you. Anybody have tight neck muscles, upper back muscles, traps,
Yeah.
rhomboids? Are
Yeah.
those muscles
Scalenes.
tight? Do you
Yeah.
might have,
Yeah.
yeah, scalenes, headaches? Do you have any of those symptoms? The answer is those are your accessory breathing muscles that you're using.
It's
And
like
in
every
addition to
person.
being, exactly, in addition to being on our crappy cell phones and horrendous posture on our laptops, we're using those muscles as the drivers of breath because we're breathing with our chest. We're not breathing with our belly. So, in order to create this shift for most of us, we need to learn whether we're breathing with our chest or breathing with our belly. So, the simplest way to do this is putting one hand on the chest and one hand on the belly and taking 3 breaths and checking which hand is moving more. Is the hand that's on my chest moving more when I inhale or the hand that's on my belly?
Yeah, definitely my chest in this moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I'm going to guess is
And
most people.
And if you're breathing more noticeably with your chest,
Hmm.
that's a sign that you're breathing short, shallow breaths that are driving the sympathetic nervous system, that are pushing the accelerator.
Yeah. Yeah. I have to say, my brain patients, if they're listening to this particular podcast, will be like, she's doing the thing she's accused me of doing.
I
Anyways.
have something very similar because I actually have a very deviated septum that ideally will be
Ah,
surgically changed soon. And so half
yes.
the time I'm not able to breathe very effectively through my nose and I end up breathing through my mouth. It is unfortunate, but I have experienced how terrible that is. And so
That's
it's
a
it's
lot of
something that needs
people.
to be changed. It
That's a
is.
lot of
Deviated
people.
septums are
Yeah.
so common and it happens because of a palate that's too small and curled upwards because there was developmental issues and we didn't build out our teeth, and that's a whole thing I'm dealing with my kids with, which is awesome. We have expanders happening right now. It's a great scenario, but this is key, right? Like
Mhm.
I preach this because I've experienced how crappy it is to be breathing in a terrible way. So number one, breathe through your nose. Number two, use your diaphragm. You should feel your belly expanding with your inhale and shrinking inwards when you exhale. And it can be very difficult to retrain that, but that process is so critical to turning on the vagus nerve because as you push your diaphragm down with each inhale and you use your diaphragm effectively, you're actually massaging the organs below. And guess what? All of those organs connect via the vagus nerve, and those 80% of signals go up from the vagus nerve to the brain. When you're breathing with your diaphragm, you're turning on your vagus nerve through the organs, through creating motion patterns in the belly. This is physically how we turn the vagus nerve on. So nasal, diaphragmatic,
Yep.
diaphragm belly breaths. The last one is inhale versus exhale ratio.
Yeah.
Okay, I love the big smile on your face.
I'm seeing this one coming. Honestly, this is like the single most common thing I talk about in the office. It doesn't matter
It
if it's
needs to be.
chiropractic. It really does. Anyways, go on, please.
So exhale versus inhale ratio. Every time we inhale, ever so slightly, our heartbeats get a little bit closer together. It's like pushing the accelerator, and the heartbeats get a little bit closer, and the number of milliseconds between beats of the heart shrinks slightly. When we exhale, we push the brakes, and those heartbeats become a little bit further apart. And so, what we're getting, if we're doing this effectively with the ratio that's either equal or greater on the exhale than on the inhale, we're spending more time in vagus nerve activation. We're spending more time pushing the brakes. We're actually retraining this upwards. That is how we get HRV. That is how we get increased heart rate variability. Cool?
Yes. Yes. I have many questions, but I don't want to cut you off.
No worries. Nasal, diaphragmatic, longer exhales. Those are the three things you need to do. Now, most people will say, you know what? I do that most of the time. Cool. How, when you're in the gym, do you progress? You add more weight onto the gym, right? Onto what you're doing. Your dumbbell gets a little bit heavier. You put a little extra weight onto the bar. Whatever it is, you're going to make it a little bit tougher for you to do it so that you can build and grow. Well, how do you make breathing tougher? There's a few different ways to do it.
Yep.
Number one, you restrict your ability to breathe a little bit. So breath holds are a great way to do that. Putting your face in water for a moment, you activate the mammalian dive reflex. Great little way to do that. What about temperature? What happens when the shower turns on and it's colder than you think? What happens to you in that moment?
Yeah.
Stress.
Yeah.
We go into a contracted, inhaled, stressed state. And then what do we have to do? We have to relax it out. We have to learn to breathe effectively in a nasal diaphragmatic longer exhale pattern while under stress of cold temperature. What happens when you jump in a cold lake? Breathe fast, and then you slow it down. And slowly you become accustomed to that cold water. This is what cryotherapy is built on. Cryotherapy, cold temperatures, cold plunge, cold shower is built on strengthening your ability to breathe parasympathetically while in a stressful scenario. And what that does is it builds the muscle up. It builds the tonality of the vagus nerve up. This can happen through numerous different ways, but I like cold temperatures as kind of the prime driver for those who are not dealing with a Raynaud's phenomenon or autoimmune condition that's going to be dysregulating, but do something a little bit that's outside of the comfort zone so that you're able to grow, because you can't grow if you're stuck in your comfort zone.
So let's talk about this cold exposure thing, because I think Stacey Sims has some really good ideas on this around female physiology versus male physiology. And it turns out women generally do better with like the heat shock therapy, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about parasympathetic activation, breath. This is what we're talking about.
So it doesn't need to be cold specifically. It can be just contrast or slightly more uncomfortable temperatures. So I call it temperature therapy. It doesn't have to be cold. Cold happens and it works better. And the data does say cold is better for men and heat is better for women. So sauna is a great way to do it.
And can you do
How calm are we there?
Is it the same? Is this the same idea around the vagal tone if you're doing the heat the heat instead of cold, but you're having the stress of the heat and doing the breathing. And
Similar
okay.
ideas, but you're activating heat
Ah,
shock proteins in a different way. And
right.
so really what it is just getting out of the comfort temperature zone that creates the change.
It's easy enough to do that on the way out of the shower. You just turn off the hot water
That's
or just
exactly
turn it
it.
off a little bit, right?
Exactly. Just turn it down slightly. Like who likes ending a shower in cold? Nobody.
Oh,
It's
nobody.
stressful. But
Yes.
if it's going to be really, really good for you and you can do 1
Three
minute
breaths?
every day and you
Yes.
can do
Okay.
10 breaths in that time, it's going
Okay.
to build that muscle back up for you.
Okay. Okay. And really what we're doing here is we're we're giving our recovery more headspace. We're building resilience.
100%. The goal
Oh,
of all of this is to build resilience up. Resilience is
okay.
the key. We're never going to be able to get rid of stress. But what we can do is increase our ability to handle and bounce back from stress.
Yes.
That's what
Okay.
resilience is. And that's really where I'm heading in all of my work and my research is towards resilience as a goal.
It's such a beautiful word, and I love the concept of it. Okay, let's for the woman who's hearing us have this very nerdy conversation, but delightful all at the same time. And going, well, how does this apply to me? All right. So basically, what Navaz has just said is let's use the variation in temperature to give you an opportunity to do some of the parasympathetic breathing we just talked about, which is this is how I describe it to my patients: is that when you do a longer exhale than an inhale, you would never do that if you're being chased by a saber-toothed cat because you're going, your body's trying to get more oxygen to direct it to the muscles, right? You're about to be run over by a bus to be more contemporary, to be less paleo about it. Anyways, but what you can do is you can take the opportunity with a little bit of discomfort and take that discomfort. Let's say we're using the shower, you turn the heat down on the way out. So you've got a minute in there. Even if you do 20 seconds to start and you take in 3 breaths or 4 breaths in that time, all you're doing is you're training the nervous system to a healthier vagal tone, which will give you resilience and a better ability to recover. How did I do?
Perfectly.
Okay. Phew. Okay, we're done. No, never mind. I still have so many questions.
I love it.
So we're expanding capacity
That's exactly it.
for
We
healing.
want to increase adaptive capacity,
I
expanding
love it.
capacity,
I love
100%.
it. I love it. Okay. I'm just looking at my notes here. Is it so what we just talked about, if we're using that cold temperature difference variation, is that as effective as turning on a YouTube video that has some meditations and some nice breathing exercises?
There's nothing wrong with doing a guided meditation, particularly if this is something that you're brand new at, right? So breath work, meditation, guided breath work, guided meditations, start where you need to start, right? Like for me, I hate being dogmatic about starting at a certain point. We have to meet people where they are. So if you've
Absolutely.
never meditated before, if you've never sat down for a breathwork session, go to a class, go watch a YouTube video, find like do something that is feeling semi comfortable where you feel like you're supported through that process. Eventually, if you do this consistently, you can get to a point where you can do a breathwork class intensely at home without any uh, work being done or just sit down and be able to meditate. But most people can't just sit and do it. They need
Mhm.
to learn how to do it. And so this is where I'm all for listening to guided meditations, turning on a
Mhm.
YouTube video, whatever, right? Like don't sit there and stare at your phone while you're doing it, but listen to what's happening. Avoid the screen, but use the tool. Don't let the tool use you.
Mm. And bonus points if you happen to find a video that uses binaural beats and you've got your
Oh, big
headphones
time.
on, right?
Big time.
Did you see the research that's showing the decrease in neurodegeneration and
Yeah.
recovery from TBI?
Yeah.
Oh, hello. I
Phenomenal
mean,
stuff.
it really, really is. So we do have all these beautiful, first of all, both Navaz and I would tell you that everything you need to be healthy is already present inside of you.
What you can't health doesn't come from outside at all.
Absolutely.
It doesn't. It health is the optimal function of you from inside. And it comes down to what habits have you trained into yourself that you need to work to untrain and learn new habits from?
Well, let me tell you, I have quite the to-do list of things I need to retrain. So thank you for this reminder because it's so easy. First of all, as you were talking about the meditation class, I used to be able to do, oh my God, the things I would see from Dr. Joe Dispenza, who of course is also part of the Chiropractic Brethren. Things I used to be able to just go into a 2-3 hour long meditation, and now I'm like 2 seconds on a TikTok thing and I scroll away. I
Yeah.
miss that attention span, but you can bet I'm
Yeah.
going to get it back. And then perimenopause came along and kicked me in the ass. And so I started seeking comfort. This has been a really eye-opening conversation for me, and I just want to say there's been so much medicine for me here. Thank you so much for sharing this information because I can feel in my community behind me that this is going to be a very changing conversation for women at a time where we can feel quite out of control.
I appreciate that. I'm honored to be a part of that journey for anybody. If this resonated, like, I'm more power to you. You're the one that has to go do the work, right? I can provide you with the recommendations, but you still have to sit and do this. And so take this and roll with it. Start making the changes. If you want to be healthier, it's on you.
Oh, I love that. To be a little bit to quote a famous chiropractic tenant, health needs no help, just no interference.
I love it.
Such a good one, right?
I love it.
Okay, Dr. Navaz Habib, where can people find out more about you?
I've got two books on the vagus nerve. You can look them up. They're available everywhere. It's Upgrade Your Vagus Nerve and Activate Your Vagus Nerve. If you're just a beginner, I recommend Activate Your Vagus Nerve, my first book. It's a great place to get started to truly understand kind of the process, the connections, what it's really doing, and the basics on getting it working. If you're more of a practitioner or you're interested in more of the science, Upgrade Your Vagus Nerve is more sciencey, a little bit more technical. And those are the two kind of resources where you can learn from. I've got a podcast called the Health Upgrade Podcast. If you're interested, you can listen there as well. And I have my online health upgraded community where we support people through the Vegas protocol. Yes, I did an acronym. Vegas was the acronym.
Very good.
And we support people through that acronym and help them create healthy lifestyles and healthy environments through sustainable actions. So please take a look at it, healthupgraded.com, and happy to share. And you can also follow me on Instagram, but don't do it at night.
Because it will disrupt your sleep, and then
Exactly.
and if you don't know why that's not a good thing, just go back and listen to the episode again. Well, it's been fun just sitting here having a chat with you, just like we were visiting in person. So thank you so much for dispensing your wisdom on the Not Your Mother's Menopause podcast.
Thank you. Next time over coffee.
Oh, I would love that. And some dinosaur bones. I mean, we got to do that. Okay.
100%.
I have a final question I ask all my guests. Please have some fun with the answer. Knowing what you know now, what would you tell your younger self? Breathe through your
Honestly,
nose. Sorry.
yeah, breathe through your nose for
Yeah.
sure. Number one, I have realized that the biggest thing that I've done, the biggest disservice that I've done to myself is say that I don't belong in a certain place.
Mm,
And I think I would go back and just tell myself that you belong.
everywhere.
Yeah.
Every person at
Yeah.
every time belongs
Yeah.
anywhere. Thank you
Yeah.
for
I've
sharing
got
that.
tears from that one. That was a good
Yeah, so
question.
do I. So much for having fun with that. Thank you,
Man.
Dr. Habib. Thank you for being here. The information and other content provided in this show, or in any linked materials, is not intended and should not be construed as medical advice, nor is the information a substitute for professional medical expertise or treatment. We are doctors, but we aren't your doctor. Seek your doctor's opinion. If you or any other person has a medical concern, you should consult with your healthcare provider or seek other professional medical treatment. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something that you have heard in this podcast or in any linked materials. If you think you may have a medical emergency, call your doctor or emergency services immediately. The opinions and views expressed on this page and in this show have no relation to those of any academic, hospital, health practice, or other institution. Thank you.